Hey there, welcome to One Take, powered by backers. Right?
No judging.
Yeah.
No judging.
The millennials are really changing that.
Is charm. No.
All success begins with desire.
I feel like I'm on fire right now.
OMG, baby, tell them.
Hey there, welcome to One Take, powered by backers. I'm Justin Fox. This is Jerry Qian. Jerry, thank you very much for joining me again on the show. We kind of had a bit of a false start a couple, maybe a week or so ago. Tried to do this on the phone. It didn't quite work, but thank you again for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin, for having me back. Yeah, I'd love to get into it today.
Awesome. So quick intro. I guess you are the co-founder of Bitcoin Bay, but you've been involved in the Bitcoin and blockchain technology space since sort of the somewhat early days, October 2013, as a specialist with blockchain technology and a community coordinator. You assist decision makers to prepare and align for the velocity of changes that are transforming their respective industries. So you are Bitcoin Bay. Why don't we start there? Why don't we talk a little bit about Bitcoin Bay? What is Bitcoin Bay?
Yeah, sure. So Bitcoin Bay, we started out in 2013 or 2014 or so, somewhere around then. And the whole idea of the group originally was to basically just help new people coming into the Bitcoin blockchain crypto space. Helping them, whether it's getting them started with like say a wallet and getting them the basics of transactions,
right, to
things like they want to set up some more type of like a business or some more complicated stuff, right? And also there's a lot of legal aspects in here too as well. So yeah, that's what we basically started out as, just helping people navigate their way into the space here. And then in 2017, when the crypto and all the ICOs on Ethereum start booming,
right,
that's when we basically got like a 10x explosion in both attendance as well as interest. So like literally, it was like 1 week there was like 12 people from the meetups, and that would be like our usual numbers.
Right.
And then the following meetup, it would jump immediately up to like 50, 60, 70 people. So it's like quite a big shock.
And when was this?
So this is back in 2017.
2017. Okay.
2017. Yeah. So early 2017. I believe it was like around April or May that this happened.
Okay.
And so yeah, after that we decided, like there's going to be too much interest coming to us, and we needed something more formalized, more structured to help coordinate all of the stuff that we're doing.
Right.
So that's basically when we incorporated Bitcoin Bay. And since then, we've been helping people with various sorts of like, for example, consulting and advisory work.
Right.
We've done that with a few companies in some of the industries, like in real estate and whatnot.
Okay.
We've also helped people develop out some prototypes for their blockchain applications back in the day. And the primary thing that we're focusing right now is our block hackathons.
Okay.
Essentially, what we've seen is that there's a lot of really good grassroots talent that's like on the local level that, quite honestly, they haven't really got discovered yet, right?
Right.
So we want to create the environment where like they can, produce the products, create the products that they wanted to work on, and expose it to the group of investors who are always trying to put in money to these exciting projects.
Okay, cool. So you're based in Toronto, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. And so let's I want to kind of get maybe a historical perspective. So what was you did? What was your undergrad, or what did you do, sort of educational wise? Sort of irrelevant. I'm just sort of
no worries.
What got you into sort of the early days of crypto, I guess?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the only thing about my my post secondary education was the fact that I got a huge ton of debt that I needed to pay off. and I saw the crypto prices just skyrocketing in September, October. I was like, man, this is a great, because that was like the summer or like the fall, the season right after I graduated. So, there's no obligation as of yet. But yeah, I just saw the price of crypto go up from like 300 to 1,000, and I was like, why don't I just get into crypto and have that pay off my debt?
This was in 2013, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So you're talking like $200 Bitcoin to $1,000 Bitcoin, which is, yeah, I mean, it's had many kind of ups and downs. Interesting. So let's go. I'm trying to sort of, I know we had a few different topics we covered, and I want to kind of look at what are your thoughts on, I guess, where Bitcoin has been and kind of where it's going, and in more around where you think kind of the crypto space is going, where it's been, where it's going, and then we can start talking a little about differentiating between sort of Bitcoin and kind of blockchain. But where do you see, what got you into Bitcoin? I mean, you kind of mentioned, obviously, looking at the huge upticks or opportunity there. Where do you see Bitcoin going, and what should people be aware of with regards specifically to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, so in terms of Bitcoin, I mean, obviously, back in the early days, it was really just proving the concept, right?
Right.
Like you gotta make sure that this thing acted as money on the internet and stuff like that. Like we did see a lot of markets, like for example, Silk Road and other quote unquote darknet markets.
Right.
And like for all the negative press and whatnot, they were able to bring in a lot of good advantages that traditional markets, whether it's black market or not, just can't deliver on.
Right.
I think last time I mentioned, like people who were trying to buy drugs, they just needed to pay crypto and give an address for the drop off, instead of bringing cash and going in person and meeting and not knowing if you're going to get shot or not. Right? Well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. No.
So that kind of stuff.
Been there, done that. But anyways, have the scars to prove it. So,
so I mean, it's proven that, and then quite honestly, since 2013, I think that was when, and I don't know like if it had like any significant impact on it at all, but that was when the Cyprus bank started basically taking all the depositors' funds, kind of like the quote unquote bail-in policy. And that was really when like Bitcoin first shot up. I believe like in 2013, it started out at like $11 and then shot up to 200 or so. And then dropped down, and then from 200 went up to 1,000. But
so explain what was this bail-in policy with the Cyprus bank?
Yeah, so Cyprus, that island near Turkey. I think they were broke, or like they were severely bankrupt or whatnot. So because they couldn't pay anything out or whatever, essentially they just went to the bank and said, hey, everyone who deposited money, this is a portion of it is now our money. So like that kind of story, right? Like, and it's not just in Cyprus, like we've seen it in Venezuela. We've seen it in a lot of these different countries that are suffering through like a lot of inflation, right? I had a few friends, contacts in Turkey and parts of the Middle East where like, yeah, back, like 6-7 years ago, when we were talking to people about, Bitcoin and crypto, they were like, oh, it's a scam. And, fast forward to today, those are the people that actually preserve the wealth. The people who held their local national fiat currencies, they more or less lost, I wouldn't say everything, but the majority of their wealth
has depleted. So yeah, I guess there's a couple factors you brought up there. Obviously, the uncertainty or the skepticism in centralized banks, especially like you said, in countries or entities like Cyprus, where they're not as scrupulous, or they might come into question what they might do with the depositors' money, right? And that, I think, in general was and that I think obviously, just to kind of I'll fill in sort of my views, and I'd love to hear your take on it. Sort of the cypherpunk kind of, they came in, as a result almost of, or at least the early advent of Bitcoin was in around the 08, 09 kind of bubble that burst, where you've got, banks were going under, people were losing money, you've got the Bear Stearns and all the bailouts and all these different things that are happening as a result of sort of the centralized banking system and the fear of what might happen to depositors' money in that case, in sort of a doomsday scenario. And obviously you've got this ability to now have non or decentralized currency that can be held autonomously or in your own wallet that you now have control over, right? That was, I think, kind of the early, and I probably totally bastardized it, but that's, and then you've got all these different, things that happen along the way that make, the case for Bitcoin. And that was probably one of them, looking at it actually happening in real life, where a bank in a country basically took depositors' money and said, yoink, thanks, this is now ours, right?
Yeah, and actually I think like in the Bitcoin blockchain, the very, very first block that that's still in record, I believe that block contained the headline article from January 3rd or 4th. I think it was like Daily Mail or something like that. It was like Bank of England approved a second bailout for one of these big banks and whatnot. So,
right. Like AIG I guess Bank of England would have been one of the European banks, right? But
yeah, it was like some British bank.
Right.
And I'm probably getting the names wrong, but
Right.
the sentiment is definitely there, right? Like to
Right.
have that kind of like bailout be the like block zero of the Bitcoin blockchain, that's pretty significant there.
Exactly.
But yeah, like overall, like even throughout the like with all the people releasing their own cryptos afterwards, especially after Ethereum, like people would just kind of realize that there's a lot more to what this like blockchain can do, and it's not just restricted in money, right? I believe it was Andreas Antonopoulos, one of the famous like early days like speaker, thought leader in this space. I think he mentioned this. Is like Bitcoin is not supposed to be like the money for the internet, right? It's not supposed to be something like PayPal or like WeChat or whatever online payments and whatnot, but rather it's supposed to be the internet for the money, meaning that like
Right.
the way wealth and money and resources is distributed is kind of locked into the traditional way of we're doing things, right? Like stock and whatnot. But when we take the analogy of like how what the internet did to media, right?
Right. Or commerce.
That's what kind of exactly, commerce. Like that's what like Bitcoin could have the potential to do for just money in general and the entire economy.
Finance and the economy. Okay, so that brings me to an interesting point. So where just quickly, where do you see Bitcoin going? Like, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin? I'll ask you a price prediction 2021, end of 20. I mean, we're 3 months to the end of 2021. Where do you see it 2021 and let's say 2022, 2025? Like, where are your thoughts? Any thoughts on price predictions? Not that hey, this is not investment advice. No one heed this. It's just Jerry's personal opinions. What are your thoughts?
Yes. And actually, I've always said that the best learning method is by doing things and making mistakes. So
and making mistakes.
if
Losing money
you
was
lose
your
money
last
in
one,
trades,
right?
this
Trading,
is the best
yes.
way.
Yeah,
It's a lot
exactly.
cheaper than going to university. Let me tell you that.
There you go. Exactly.
But for in terms of prices, I would say that I could definitely foresee 6-figure USD for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Especially moving towards October, November, and stuff like that. That's typically when like prices really start moving up for some reason. Obviously it could go down lower. It could maintain in the low 5 figures.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of just like all of the volatility that's going around the world, not just in the crypto space, right? But just with countries, there's a lot of uncertainty going on. Like El Salvador and I believe some other country was looking into legalizing Bitcoin and stuff like that.
Right.
So definitely it will bring more usage and traction. Will that improve people's lives? I don't know. I
Right.
have absolutely no idea. But if you're just strictly talking about the prices, yeah, I could definitely foresee six figure by the end of this year.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so we'll talk. Bitcoin obviously is one thing. You talked about it being potentially not so much replacing money, although there is that use case, but potentially being the internet of money, or the kind of the underlying of the economy as far as
Yeah,
the
it's like an
technology.
augmentation.
Right, with sort of the blockchain. So let's talk a little bit about, you brought it up, and I know we had previously talked a little bit about trading, and I loved your theory, as you just said, losing money in trading, be prepared to lose. That's almost the lesson you need to kind of be able to weather through things. But tell me a little bit about your thoughts on ICOs, and then maybe the evolution into what I think, where, obviously with backers, we work with STOs, or I just saw a note from one of the regulators. They refer to it as an ITO, more sort of the token versus the coin, and sort of the securitization of a token versus an ICO. What are your thoughts on sort of, you mentioned that 2017 Ethereum, why don't we talk about Vitalik, great Canadian Buterin, Canadian, that created Ethereum. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on sort of blockchain, Ethereum, ICOs, and kind of STOs, and where we kind of go from there? Because you mentioned you're working with a number of different companies in that space, right? So what are your thoughts kind of on what's happened, and where you see it going?
So I guess I could start off with Vitalik and the beginnings of Ethereum, I guess. Obviously they were meeting in Toronto at some of the meetups, not Bitcoin Bay, but earlier.
I was gonna say, did you host them at Bitcoin Bay? No, 2013, 14, no. There you go.
No. It's so we came after. We formed after that.
Right.
But it would have been nice because we would have been on the Ethereum co-founders list.
Yeah.
But yeah, like one of the things that they brought up very, very early on was the decision to actually move to Switzerland, even though like most of the team were here in, primarily Canada, but some are also based in the States, and I guess a few in Europe. But just the fact that they decided it was best to move to Switzerland instead of just like staying here kind of just set the tone, right? And we kind of see that in 2017 when all these ICOs started coming out, and that, there was no regulation for this.
Right.
I would say more than 99 point, well, let's just give it 4 nines, right? 99.99% of all these tokens, they could have started out like very, very good intention, but inevitably they fail, right? Obviously there will be some that's like very, very malicious, but quite honestly, like the technology was just not mature enough to the point where it could actually do all the things people wanted.
Right.
And unfortunately, like when you mix in bad marketing, bad information, or misinformation sometimes,
Right.
and like people have the impression that, oh, once your stuff is on the blockchain with ICO, the government can't go after you.
Right.
Well, fortunately in 2018, 2019, stuff like that, we've seen some of the celebrities, they were being fined by SEC for promoting all these tokens and whatnot, right?
Right.
I don't know if it's like a
sort of like a pump and dump scandals kind of thing, right? And
yeah,
I mean, they're still going through it, right? I mean, they're still
going
things that are
through,
happening.
and quite honestly, I don't think they're going to stop. But what's nice about it nowadays is that like the regulators are trying to better work with these projects,
Right.
so that like there is that regulatory clarity at the very, very least. That's not to say that like the developers who are working on all the blockchain applications should just relax and whatnot, right? There's all these new stuff coming out with like decentralized exchanges that quite honestly the regulators have yet to wrap their heads around.
Right.
But in just terms of tokens and all that kind of stuff, I think the space has matured to a point where end users can see like a raw utility for them. Like they're not caring for more dollars, they want that end user service, right?
Right.
And I think like the regulators would be comfortable enough to like start permitting it. they have started working with some of these listing platforms, such as yourselves and whatnot, to just basically provide that for people.
Yeah.
And I think like the regulators aren't exactly like completely ignorant about these things. I'm sure they know that like a lot of projects have already left Canada to go to more regulatory friendly places. So it is a brain drain. It's lost economic potential, and yeah, it's just coming to realization about it.
Interesting. And so just to clarify, so yeah, we obviously are working sort of with the regulators here in Canada on sort of regulated security tokens, which, just so everyone that's watching, the difference between sort of an ICO and an ITO or an STO security token offering or initial coin offering is that a coin is like Bitcoin. And this is one of the biggest, I think, pushbacks of Bitcoin is there's no underlying asset, right? That gives it its value other than what you or I or everyone says its value is. So people think that there's a lot of uncertainty there, and that's kind of the ICO space. Whereas with security tokens, there is an underlying asset that has underlying value that the security token represents, whether it's stock in a company or real estate or whatever that asset is. So that's kind of the difference between the two. So I think from a regulatory perspective, it becomes this more of a economic engine, right, towards sort of the operational. You talk about the internet of the economy versus the actual economy itself, right? It's more of the technology than the actual use case, right? So
yeah, it just basically like help catalyze and speed up all the things that we would have done very
right,
slowly and by hand, manual and stuff like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the security and the from a security in the sense of immutable and traceable and right, all these different things that now it's on the blockchain, and so you can actually see, track, monitor, right, what's happening with that security token, right? And the transactions can be done sort of instantly with instant kind of basically instant transactions for a fraction of the cost, right? So okay, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned sort of applications, decentralized applications, DApps. What are some fun, cool things? You mentioned your block hack, is that what you call it?
Yeah,
Correct?
block hack.
Block hack. What are some of the cool projects that you've come across that you've seen in your block hacks, or what are some of the things that you guys are working on that are kind of cool and interesting in this space?
Yeah, so so in terms of block hack hackathons, we've obviously had a lot of different projects come through. Most of them have been for NFTs, tokens, and whatnot. But we have had quite a few interesting ones. For example, anonymous reporting for to like police and the authorities and whatnot.
Okay.
We've had a lot of people work on stuff like medical records and other reporting tools, tracking tools.
Okay.
So the main thing that again like we want to promote for that is connecting with the investors to help them like sustain these projects.
Right.
Because like the main thing that we've seen is that like these projects, they only get worked on during these hackathons, but then afterwards it just gets abandoned, right?
Okay.
But yeah, there have been a few that's like fairly successful nowadays.
Okay.
Actually, you guys can go to the dev post for under blockhack.ca to check it out. In terms of other stuff that we're doing on our end, so one of the things that we're trying to show people is that like these tokens, they can be used in many different ways and not just like be sold or like given out to people at random.
Right.
One of the things that we're doing for blockhack is we're creating a voting token that's specifically tied to the Bitcoin Bay prize for the hackathon. And the idea is that quite honestly, we don't want to be the ones picking out the winners.
Okay.
We want the audience members, all of our community members, to participate in that, and basically it's like determining which team should get the highest proportion of the prize.
Right.
So essentially, we created this voting token so that the teams at the end who have proportionally the highest amount would get like the most amount, the Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash or Ethereum or whatever.
Right.
And we're giving it out to all the attendees, like when the teams are presenting, the attendees can just transfer and quote unquote vote with their tokens to each of those teams.
Right.
And yeah, essentially the idea is to create a very, very limited scope for the token so that it's only used for the hackathon events and nothing else, right?
Right.
And then try to get like more audience participation going on. And I have actually talked about this idea or like this execution with some other industries, particularly in the esports sector.
Yeah.
Where you
I
have
was gonna
like a
say
lot of
sports or
competition.
esports. Yeah, for sure.
Esports.
Esports. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where like a lot of people just like go on Twitch or whatnot and start watching people, right? So so it has been like a long time where like people like those kinds of audience members want to participate in some capacity, but it's just like not technically feasible, right? So
Right.
this is something that we're trying to build out and hopefully turn into something that like a lot of these streamers can use to just better interact with their audience members as well.
Interesting. I've always looked at, that's actually what attracted me to the blockchain technology first, was the voting mechanism. Initially I was looking at sort of the ability for I was thinking of it from a sports perspective. Literally you could have like a sports league where the fans dictate not so much what happens on the playing field, because that's kind of, they're not robots, right? But more so like who's on the playing field, the jerseys, who gets to play, like, all these different things, maybe the rules of the game. Like you could have all of this done through, sort of a blockchain based voting mechanism where literally everything can be, everything that isn't the fact that they're not robots can be dictated by, by the fans, right? So you get that true fan engagement, and almost like, rather than having, it's almost like the decentralization of, team ownership and management and coaching and, all those different things, right? So that was 2016, 17, that was kind of what brought me into it. And then you saw Ethereum with smart contracts, right? And sort of the ability that they brought out in 2017. So cool. Let me ask you one last question. Where do you see Bitcoin Bay? And I'd love to, I think we should continue this conversation offline for sure. Would love to be a part of the block hacks and stuff that you guys are doing with backers and sort of join in, partner with Bitcoin Bay. But where do you see Bitcoin Bay going sort of in the next year? Or what are your plans for Bitcoin Bay in the next year?
So like obviously with COVID-19 and all the lockdowns, like we had to make a lot of adjustments in our business structure and whatnot. Moving forward, I think we have a fairly solid plan for like the hackathons moving forward, and we definitely want to continue that. Developing more partnerships with investor groups such as yourselves and whatnot.
Yeah.
The other thing too is also just helping people more out with their projects, blockchain projects.
Yeah.
We have seen a lot of uptick in demand for various NFTs that that either we're just a little bit short-staffed right now, or the project is just a bit like it's asking for a bit too much, right?
Right.
But definitely like we have seen a lot more people just like approaching us for these kinds of stuff. So really it's just in terms of expansion, right? Just grow, hire more people, engage more clients and companies in other industries. Really the main thing is just like reaching out to non-blockchain industries at this point, because like there's all these other potentials and talent and resources out there.
You're on mute. You just oh, there you go.
No worries. So yeah, the what was I gonna say?
Reaching out to different industries.
yeah, just like different industries, like bringing them in, bringing their expertise in, and just getting more perspective on like where we can actually apply the blockchain to, right? So I think like that would be the main thing that we'll focus on moving forward.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Jerry, I really appreciate you joining me on the show again. Love to, yeah, we should definitely look at the block hacks. We'd love to get sort of some of the entities, maybe coming through the backers program as well. Where can they find you? You said blockhack.ca. Where else can they find you? Bitcoin Bay.
So you can find so our website is bitcoinbay.ca. You can find our block hack information at blockhack.ca. We're mostly active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So we make a lot of article posts on that. So you can just type in my name, Jerry, last name Qian,
Yeah.
or just type in Bitcoin Bay, and most of that information should just pop up.
Cool. TikTok.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, come on. You got to get some Bitcoin TikToks. Bit talks.
Yeah, well, I am also born in mainland China, and I know who owns TikTok.
Oh, okay. Is it well? Yeah. Okay. Well, didn't they? Yeah, that's a whole other discussion.
That's a whole other
Did they not?
conversation.
I was gonna say, did they not have this whole legal thing where like the I guess North American portion migrated to the U.S. But anyways, probably another conversation.
There's
for another
legal,
time.
and then there's enforcement, right?
Right. True. Interesting. Well, Jerry, I really appreciate you joining me. All the best. Let's continue the conversation. Love to work with you guys. I know I joined one of your meetups. I think it's coming up soon, right? But anyways, everyone else, One Take, powered by backers, Justin Fox, Jerry Qian. Jerry, thanks again for joining me, and I will see everyone else again soon. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you so much.
Hey there, welcome to One Take, powered by backers. Right?
No judging.
Yeah.
No judging.
And the millennials are really changing that.
Is charm. No.
All success begins with desire.
I feel like I'm on fire right now.
OMG.